What's your point? When I read that for the first time, it shocked me. But I think that's the point. So I won't take up time, but today Leo is concluding a series of talks exploring Christ's teachings and how they're applicable in our lives. And it couldn't be more appropriate given the month and the time. So Leo, please, let's see what your point is.
I'm on. Thank you, Kirsten. Hello, everyone, and good evening. It is on. I'm glad Kirsten start with asking what is my point, but it's not my point that we are bringing here. It's someone else's point, right? And as Kirsten was saying also, the closing here would be more in terms of the parables, but the teachings of Christ will continue. Not necessarily the way that we have been presenting one after the other, but it is a series that we can give a continuation, right? It doesn't have to be every month, because sometimes we take the opportunity to talk about other things, perhaps what the SSB is in need of, perhaps what the public is in need. Sometimes we also decide to speak of things that the country, right, or the necessities of every single day, and we try to address them as much as possible. One thing is for sure that we have been asking one another to do most of the time is to really, when we come to speak, when we come to help, let us ask, right? Let us be open to what the public is in need of. Because one thing is for us to say the things that we would like to say, we'd like to present, but what is the need of it? And that sometimes can be challenging. It's not easy. And I'm speaking for myself now, because sometimes, or let's say most of the time, or all the time, we don't know everything, right? So it's hard to address everything. Much like this point that we're trying to make today. And I have to say, it's a little bit challenging for me. And these are the moments that we come together to speak about Christ, to speak about the teachings of Christ, that we, it's not that we are fearful, but try to be very careful so that we don't create more confusion in our minds, in our hearts, than we already have done in the past, right? And since we are in the Spiritist home, we also have to acknowledge not only our yesterday past, right, but also previous reincarnations, where we took the message and we made a big spaghetti soup out of it, right? Not to say other things. And we have done it, and we have accepted, and we have multiplied it. Recently, listening to the Spiritist radio of Rio de Janeiro, it's called Rio de Janeiro's the Spiritist radio. One of the speakers said something really interesting, and she even reminded the audience that the Raul had actually mentioned this, which is sometimes we have the drive to change other people's faith or idea perhaps that they have about God, about Christ, and she was referring to us, Spiritists, right? On imposing our ways or what we have found or what we understand of Spiritism, of God and Jesus towards that individual, trying to implement, again, not to say other things, Spiritism in their mind, right? Forgetting that it took a while for that individual to develop that sense towards God, to develop that sense towards Jesus, right? To develop that sense in terms of religiosity. So who are we to go and just come and say everything that you think, everything that you believe thus far is wrong? So we really have to be careful. And I'm saying again this to myself, hopefully to you as well, as we bring the enlightenments that Spiritism brings to us, not in the sense of impose towards one another, but to truly demystify to an extent, but also to add to our lives, right? And consequently, right, as we have mentioned, with the experiences that we had with the parables to change our perception towards God, to change the perception towards the Creator and Jesus as well, which, as we will see here, is the model that we have received to exemplify, not just say it, not just preach, but to exemplify the natural laws for all of us, right? So when we are studying the parables and we're thinking about what the parables are, right? Is it just a story that Jesus brought to us? Is it reality? Did it really happen? Right? And what is his point? As you can see, that we brought is, what is your point? As if in respect, we were talking to Jesus. What is your point? What is your point out of all this? Right? And hopefully this will bring again some enlightenment for us, that when we hear certain things as the kingdom of God is so and so, right? Our attention not only is well more developed than we used to be, but also the curiosity with our hearts is different. Not just saying, oh, it's another story that somebody's telling me, right? But something else. On that note, what I would like to do to just incite what we're trying to bring here today, I would like just to remind you or ask you to think about a moment that we had, perhaps with our parents, perhaps for those of us who had the ability to spend some time with our grandparents, or someone wise who actually was in our childhood, when they stopped and they told us of a story, something that they went through, right? Much like, and I want this to be hopefully you can bring this to your mind, to your heart, much like in the expressive cultures, when we didn't have the abilities to write, or art was very, let's say, mundane, right? That we didn't have the way to communicate like we have now. That's how they used to do, right? They pass it along experiences towards the little ones so that they can also pass it along to their upbringings when they grow up. But each one of us have had that moment that we had that conversation with someone wise enough to say, let me tell you a story, right? Whether that moment was true or not, whether that was just something that they learned from someone else, but it was impactful to us, right? Doesn't have to be perhaps a family member, but a friend. When they sat down with you, oh, let me tell you this, right? Perhaps those are the moments that we look back and say, man, I could have been a little bit more appreciative of that time, because the person perhaps is no longer with us, right? But we all had those moments. And again, this is how we learned. Those moments perhaps were more impactful than sometimes of us reading, not saying that they were bad or anything like that, and not saying in a negative way, reading a parable, because there was a meaning behind that message, right? That was the moment that you connect heart to heart, not only listening to the words, but to that moment. We all had those moments. So connect with that, bring that to mind, and hopefully it will all make sense as we end this meeting tonight. So one of the things that I wanted to do is to take a passage that is in the gospel, one of the gospels, but it's also in the gospel according to Spiritism, that Kardec in one of the chapters brought to us. It is on chapter 14, entitled "Do Not Hide Your Lamp Under a Bushel," which is also a parable. And we'll see a little bit about it, right? We covered that parable, so we hopefully we have online all the different parables. Daniel kindly puts them in there, and we can also ask Daniel right now. I'm going to give him more work to perhaps put the links for some of these parables there too, as we put the video online. But there is this passage from Matthew chapter 13 that it's a moment with Christ, not a parable. It's a moment of Christ with Christ, where it says, his disciples approached him and asked, "Why do you speak to them in parables?" And he answered them, "Because to you it has been given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, But to them it has not been given. I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they neither hear nor understand. And then the prophecy of Isaiah is fulfilled when he said, "You will hear with your ears, but you will not understand. You will look with your eyes, but you will not see. Because the hearts of these people have been deemed, their ears have deadened, excuse me, their ears have become deaf, and they have shut their eyes tightly, lest their eyes see. Their ears hear, their hearts understand, and being converted, I may heal them." Again, Matthew chapter 13, verses 10 through 15. What does this has to do with all of this, right? That Christ is explaining to us that for some, he spoke in parables. For others, they gave a little bit more, right? So is it for us to discredit what the parables are? Or is there a group of people who were chosen to receive more, right? All of these questions comes to mind. And it's pretty, and this is the moment that we have to be careful. And I'm including myself here. And it's contradicting to an extent when we read such a thing, right? And Jesus, in other moments, said other things. Because the name of the chapter, as you can see, is "Do not hide your lamp under a bushel." So was Jesus hiding the light under a bushel when he spoke to in parables to some? Was he limiting people of getting to know of the knowledge? Let's find out. By the way, one thing that I wanted to bring to you as well, because I had to go after, these are the passages in Isaiah that he kind of mentions what we have read here, right? The prophecies of the master coming and all that, because it's important. Because, okay, where is Jesus, knowing the law the way he did, brought this from, right? And we can go either to Isaiah 6, 9, 10, chapter 6, verse 9 and 10, 42, verse 20, and chapter 29, verse 18. As I was saying, it's contradicting, because he also said, "No one lights a lamp to put it either under a bushel. Rather, he puts it on a lampstand so that it can illuminate all who are in the house." In another gospel, there is no one who, after having lit a lamp, covers it with a vase or puts it under a bed. He puts it on a lampstand so that those who enter can see its light. As there is nothing secret that may not be discovered, nor anything hidden that may not be known and made public. So, once more, it's contradicting to our eyes. To our eyes, right? Because I don't think or let me put it this way, I am certain that Jesus, at his moral stature, would have said something that is contradicting. Let us understand a little bit what Jesus is, or what Spiritism brings to us, before we go on with the message. This is important as well, because we can sit here and try to dwell between this and that, and not bringing this passage, as well as not analyzing who he was speaking to when he was saying these things. In this case here, so we cover this part, he was speaking to the disciples. The first passage up there, right? Down on the chapter, on the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke, he was actually speaking to the masses, to the group of people, of course, but not directly to the disciples, who had a little bit of a better understanding of what the master was, what Jesus was. So let us take a parenthesis here, or let's open a parenthesis and take a little deeper look on what Spiritism brings to us, of who is this speaking to us, right? Rather than understanding who we are, which we can do as well, and we will do little by little. But what does Spiritism brings to us in terms of what Jesus is? On question 625, we will see that Jesus is the most perfect standard that God has offered to humankind as a guide and model in terms of morality, right? And when we say here perfect standard, it's not just someone who spoke something, oh, this person's great, but also lived, thought, right? Engaged others in that perfection, if we can say it that way, right? And did quite a bit for us. So much so that here we are, 2025, and the message still stands. Whether some of us may like it or not, it's there. And I'm not saying this attacking anyone. I'm not saying this trying to prove a point, but it's self-sufficient. It's there with us since for 2,000 years, over 2,000 years. So this is a comment that Kardec actually, after the question and answer comes about, Kardec comes and says, this is the first part of it. Jesus is the highest standard of moral perfection to which humankind may aspire on earth. God offers him as the most perfect model, and the doctrine he taught is the purest expression of God's law, because he was animated by the divine spirit and was the purest being that has ever walked the earth. I would like to confront the idea. How is that so? And recently, I was actually having a conversation with one of my colleagues, not saying that I'm spiritist, not saying that I'm this or that, what I believe, but when we read such a thing, right? Much like Jesus, you know, the confusion of, is Jesus choosing some individuals to say certain things and leaving aside others? Or diminishing the capabilities of a group of people because he believed that they didn't know any better, right? So let us confront this idea now. God has offered this spirit as a guide and model. So was this Christ created by God that way? We need to go for some rescue here, right? Let us take the tenets of Spiritism, which is that there is a God, there is a creator, polarity of the worlds, communicability of the spirits, reincarnation, and immortality of the soul. Just something that if we take any of them, and we can also add cause, the law of cause and effect into all of this, but that will be something else that we can add later on, and it would be another point of discussion there. But I just want to take these five, which is the core of them, right? And say, what God would be a God, a perfect God, that would have created someone who is of that moral stature, right? And created us the way we are. Not saying that we're not perfect. Not saying that we're not perfect. We all have perfectness inside of us, right? We have to utilize the other tenets. We know that there is a God. We all believe that there is a God, right? But we also have to take in consideration that the immortality of the soul is created, right? Pure and ignorant, right? And what happens to that soul? It reincarnates. And what happens when we reincarnate? We learn. But do we learn in just one planet, like planet Earth? That's when we have to bring the polarity of the worlds, right? You see, we're using common sense, if we can call it that way, to say, wait a minute, so where is the spirit coming from? Where is the knowledge that Jesus brought to us coming from? Is it something that was endowed on him, a chosen one given to us by God? Or is this a spirit that through time, millions and millions of years, reincarnated so many times that he learned way more than what we have learned thus far? Do you see where I'm going with this? So this is not just a spirit that when we come to December, we start talking about and thinking, oh, Christ. This is a spirit that was offered to us that through billions of years have reincarnated. And I'm just throwing number, guys, because I do not know. And in Spiritism, we don't have a number saying it's Jesus reincarnated so many times to become the perfect spirit that he is. But I want us to understand a little bit, because I don't understand yet, the essence of this spirit and what has been offered to us to help us change, to help us become a better individual. By the grace of God, we have this example, right? And we're using reason to bring of who this individual is that Spiritism brings to us. I'll add one more thing. Through scholars, and this is something that we were researching as we were preparing for this talk, some scholars said that they lose count, right? The core prophecies that we have is about 50 or so, but there are more than 500 that they can count, that in the Old Testament, all the prophets together brought to us saying or announced there was going to be someone coming and helping us. Someone that was to come, right, by this or that way, and we can go into the analysis in another time, this or that way, that will bring us the good news, right? This is also to say that, and I think I brought it, yeah, it's here. Introduction, again, the same book, The Gospel According to Spiritism, we will see that the Socrates and Plato, the precursors of the Christian idea in Spiritism. And we have a summary also of the doctrine of Socrates and what in Plato as well. And it's numbered on what these minds have brought to us to pave the way for Christ, someone, a spirit of this stature, to incarnate, not reincarnate, but to incarnate on planet Earth, because he didn't reincarnate. He came once. He didn't have to reincarnate like each one of us we have to do, to bring what he brought. So think of the number of years. Think of the hard work that was done for this spirit to come and bring to us what he brought. And I'm not even dwelling if it was in parables or not. Okay, that will be something that we'll continue in a little bit. But for us just to understand that there wouldn't be us at this moment trying to understand Christianity in the sense of what Christ have taught us, even Spiritism, if it were not for minds like Socrates, Plato, and many others. Many of the prophets as well, that sometimes don't try to understand much, right? Because of our limitations or because it's just something that is sitting on the Old Testament, right? Hopefully don't take this as a Bible study, but really for us to say, if it's there, let me take a moment to read. What is it saying, right? Or somebody else is telling me that, Jesus said this, and this is actually one of the prophecy of Isaiah. Let me find out if it is really there, right? Let's be curious, right? So going back to the essence of Christ, there is one more thing that I would like to add, and we go back to the Spirit's book. This is now part 3 of the Spirit's book, chapter 11, in the law of justice, love, and charity. It is asked to the spirits that what is the true meaning of the word charity as Jesus understood? We have brought this before, and it is that icing on the cake, right? Because it really brings us a sense of spirituality, in a sense of being to love our brothers and sisters, right? In a way that perhaps we cannot yet. I cannot, right? And the answer is the following. Benevolence towards everyone. Not only the individuals that we like, but it's everyone. Indulgence towards the imperfection of others. And what are the others that are imperfect? imperfect. I am. We all are. So again, it's everyone, right? It's everyone because we're not perfect yet. Even though I try to tell my wife that I'm perfect, but she still don't. She still are. Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. But it's a joke, everyone. And forgiveness of offenses towards everyone as well. So, are we there yet? No. Are we close? That will be for each one of us to to answer. But I have a lot of work to do to be able to understand charity this way, to be able to exemplify charity in my life this way. This is the stature. This is the level of the Spirit that has been presented to us, as we know, a Christ named Jesus, right? I'll put something very exciting. For some of us, maybe a little bit challenging. He said to us what? That we can do what he did and much more. So it's not a limit in saying, oh, I was chosen and you're to follow what I'm here to tell you, right? Even though he did say that he was the way, the truth, and the life, and there's actually a beautiful book by Emmanuel with that title as well, part of the spring collection. Excuse me. We know that he mentioned to us that we can do what he did and much more. Will it be in this lifetime? No. We can go to a desert like Paul did. We can take some time off, right? Seclude ourselves, think about our lives, right? Give away everything that we have, right? And then come back and do what Paul did. But just by doing so, do we think that we're become Christ? No, because Paul didn't become Christ even after his transformation, right? So there's a lot of work to be done. There are many other worlds to inhabit. There are many other things to do. And it's beautiful because studying the literature, I actually came across another one yesterday, and if we have time, I'll share with you that many of these spirits who have ascended to a certain degree, they look back and say, well, there is still sadness, right? There's still a lot of difficulties on the planet Earth. Guess what? I would like to stay until we're all happy before I ascend. There are many of them that they do that. They find happiness on helping others. And this is part of this understanding of what the word charity is. To give a continuation, what we have shown up there which is the what Kardec actually brought, here's the continuation of that part on question 625. Love and charity supplement the law of justice because loving our neighbors is to do them all the good possible, all that we would wish to be done to ourselves. Such is the meaning of Jesus' words, love one another as brothers. Again, that is the continuation of Kardec comments on question 625. So, in that sense, do we have a basic understanding of what Jesus is? Hopefully it is. For some of us, we may need to complement a little bit more. For some of us, we may need to visualize more, seeing pictures, seeing videos, and it's all good. Some of us may have to fantasize that it is this beautiful being, and we respect that because, again, this is what we have received thus far. There's nothing wrong with that. But going back to what Spiritism brings to us, that one must not put a lamp under a bushel, but upon a stand, so that all who enter may see. This does not mean, however, that one should inappropriately review everything. Every teaching must be proportional to the intelligence of those to whom it is directed, since there are persons whom a radiant light would blind without enlightening. It happens every time we turn on the light here after we cut the light for a prayer or something, right? Everybody's blinded, right? Imagine if we were to have the truth that we have nowadays, the teachings that we have nowadays. And I would like to encompass here everything: science, religion, right? Just the simple desire that we have now to find reasoning on everything. Don't tell me that there is a God, prove it. Don't tell me that there is a Jesus, prove it. And this is one of the things that Spiritism brings to us. Ask. It's okay. It's okay to question. There's nothing wrong to accept or not accept it blindly, right? And this is not something that is brought by Spiritism. This is something that nowadays we see with young people, for example. Just don't tell me that it exists just because somebody told me. No. We want proof, right? It's okay to question until we get to the point where we're not creating other things to justify what we don't understand, right? So if we don't understand the cause, it's okay. But for sure, we know the effects, and there's no effect without a cause. There's no way that we would have these beautiful machines, our physical bodies, with some failures here and there, right? That is not, I don't believe at least, that is caused by God, that we can put aside the idea of a creator. Has to be there, right? So all of these things for us to say, some of these things were told in the right proportion to the people who could accept. When Jesus was speaking to the disciples, they had an idea of, or an acceptance, if I may say that way as well, of what Jesus was. If we go back to the recently translated book Good News, we see moments, beautiful moments, of Christ speaking with some of the disciples for the first time on how they were dedicated to the cause, or at least they knew what they were. They thought they knew what they were going to confront, right? And the desire to be with Jesus, the desire to learn what he was to bring to us, right? But there was much more that they learned afterwards. So some of it was given to them because they had already some information within them. They had some acceptance, but for others, right? Many of them dealing with the day-to-day mundane life, just like we do nowadays, things had to be brought in proportions, right? Generations go through childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. Each thing must come in its time, for the seed planted out of season will not grow. Much like we were saying, there was a preparation, a paving of the way. Well, before we even pave, what we have to do? We have to prepare, right? If a road or railway has to be built, and it's actually in the middle of the forest, what do you have to do? Cut the tree, right? Prepare the soil, take all the roots out, and all those things. And those things happen little by little through centuries, right? Way before the announcement, perhaps, of Christ. In the Spirit's book, again, we will see another question, and this is Kardec asking, why hasn't the truth always been within reach of everyone? Each thing must come in its own time. Truth is like light. We must accustom ourselves to it little by little. Otherwise, it dazzles us. It will blind us. I came across this 2 weeks ago, reading something on the web. It's beautiful how you start reading one thing and then something else catches your attention, and then you go deeper into that other area, so on and so forth. Hopefully, when we do that, we learn something out of it, right? And it was the thought of that the Earth was the center of the universe, right? Geocentrism, right? When we didn't know any better, right? Where we are the center of everything. Everything, when we look at the sky, it comes around us, it goes on and on and on, until somebody comes and say, no, we're not, right? And they had to come up with theories and other theories to make sure that, based on the observations, that we were not, that the sun then was the center of the universe, right? Until somebody with, a really nice, what do you call? Something to see, right? A telescope. Thank you. The telescope said, you know what? We are not the center of the universe. The sun is not the center of the universe. There's something way bigger than this, right? And that person was actually questioned. What are you talking about? This is crazy. Stop saying those things. You're scaring people, right? You're taking people's attention of what we are, right? And we owe them what we have. And now we know for sure, right, that we are not the center of the universe. And it's the same thing with this message. Imagine if we were to say, or Christ, with all his eloquence, with all his knowledge, because he didn't only have the knowledge that we read, a spirit who have reincarnated in many, many, many times to get to where he is. He knew of science that we know today and way more. And way more. So imagine if he had to bring those ideas. Imagine if the technology that we have today were to be brought 2,000 years ago. Nothing new, because if we think that there are other planets that they develop themselves as well in the universe, I'm not talking about only right here next to us, right? Next door, like Mars. It's funny when we say next door, but it's Mars, right? But other galaxies, right? So imagine if he were to say such a thing. People would be like, what are you talking about? A great reminder as well that is important for us to bring, and this is in terms of on how we receive, on how we actually multiply these teachings, is that the law of God is in our conscience, right? That all these teachings, the moral laws that God have created, when we say have created, is we have to go back to the Spirit's book and read a little bit more, but it's the laws of the universe that actually is around us. We live by it in our conditions here on planet Earth, but if we go to another planet, or if we read even the Spirit's book once, twice, or 3 times, the 3rd time we read about the natural laws, we will have a much better understanding compared to the first time that we have read. And then again, it's our perception towards the idea of understanding what the laws of God or the natural laws are, right? It is in our conscience. Now, if we take that information and we do something malicious to it, it's our fault. As Kardec mentions, if some of those who intended to teach the law of God to humankind have sometimes led them astray with erroneous principles, it is because they allowed themselves to be dominated by strong earthly sentiments, and because they confuse the laws regarding the conditions of the life of the soul with those regulating the life of the body. Many of them presented as divine laws what were really only human ones, created to serve their own passions and to dominate others. And I'm speaking for myself. Because sometimes we hear things, we take the message, understand our own ways, and we pass it along to the world, right? If I were to tell Aloysio one sentence, and he has, what is the name of that game? That you tell a sentence and keep passing along? That, thank you. What's going to happen? By the time the message gets back there, it's going to be something completely different. We do that in our lives. And how many times we have done this with the message that Christ have brought to us? How many times we have perhaps said or multiplied the things that we thought Jesus said, but it wasn't so. And this is what we have done in many cases with the parables, right? When I see here that when I bring here what God have brought to us, it's because on the answer that was brought to us, that Jesus have been the perfect example of God's law that we have received. And the moment that we go and we take the message and we apply to our necessities to manipulate others, to perhaps, create or separate people, right? Guess what? We're responsible and we'll have to come back to fix it, right? I.e., some of us. But that's a topic for the future. So, I would like to bring straight to the point, and this is through my research. I think this is one of the straight to the point ways to tell us what a parable is. In this book, it is only in Portuguese. Parables and Teachings of Christ by Carbar Schuto. He says the following: that parables of the gospel are allegories that contain moral precepts. Is it a little story? They are. Did it happen? We don't know. There are some Spiritist scholars that perhaps we have heard that they say, perhaps this have happened to Christ when he was reincarnating way back when. I don't know when, but he went through that he was one of the individuals that we learn through the parables. Was he the prodigal son? Maybe once. We don't know. Is it important? It's okay to, fathom the idea. But we know that when we go back to the prodigal son, what do we have there? There is a story. And incontestably, there is a moral teaching as well. The father, the prodigal son, the brother, the group of people, right? And all of the things that happen in between them. Giving away what it was the son coming back, and the father receiving that individual back as a son, not just as a worker, as he presented himself, or as he offered himself. There was a moral teaching. And how many of us have been the prodigal son? How many of us have been the brother who stayed, as we have mentioned when we talked about that parable, who stayed behind and criticized the whole thing, criticized the father, criticized the brother, criticized the group of people that also was rejubilating with the father or the brother, because the brother had come back. And this is strange, right? Because he felt less than the brother, right? But he stayed behind. He was working, right? So there is a lot that we can go back again to the presentations, or we can read ourselves, we can read ourselves and truly find out what are these teachings that we have. So when we go back and try to understand these parables, try and understand what Jesus said, we can actually come up to our conclusions and truly say there is an allegory, right? Allegory. It is a reality, right? But one thing we know, as we learn through Spiritism, that one might ask what advantage the common folk could have derived from this multitude of parables whose meaning remained hidden to them. It should be noted that Jesus did not express himself in parables except regarding certain abstract parts of his doctrine, but having made, and this is the core part of this text, but having made charity and humility towards one's neighbor the express condition for salvation, everything he said in this regard is perfectly clear, explicit, and unambiguous. And it had to be this way because it was the rule of conduct, a rule that everyone had to understand in order to observe. It was what was essential for the ignorant multitudes, to whom he limited himself to stating, "This is what you must do in order to gain the kingdom of heaven." Charity and humility. All of the parables all of the teachings have this moral context. So we go back. When we hear it, the teachings, when we come back and we analyze what is there, when Jesus is saying the kingdom of God is so and so, right? And tells the story of a farmer, right? Tells the story of a fisherman, right? Tells the story of a lady who was sharing what she didn't have, right? What's the purpose? What is to be said with that story? He was talking to people, everyday people, just like you and I, right? That needed that information. And behind that story, there was a moral teaching. We can take it that way still. We can just think about that moment, but we can also ask, okay, what would the master say to us today? It's even hard to come up with a story like that, right? It's really hard to come up with that. So we will see that the currency of the message, it's still there because it has endured the 2,000 years and is still valid, right? It has endured. We will see that it is applicably to all of us nowadays, whether we're Christian or not. So the relevance is still there. It's still applicable. If we go and analyze the authority of the message, of who brought the message, we have seen what Spiritism brings to us. And we brought some reasoning for us to understand that this is not a chosen individual that God created. No. He ascended just as we are doing right now, learning that perhaps one day we can pass it over to others, right? When we look as well at the accuracy of the message, we will see that many of us who put into practice, we will feel better. We will multiply joy, love towards one another, right? And then finally, as we already mentioned, the purpose of the message. Many of us think that, oh, he was just there, talking to a group of people. No, there was a purpose. Many of the Spiritist books that we read, we will find that in many cases, we will see, for example, a spirit of a more morally developed than we are. They say very few things, but within those very few phrases per se, they say quite a bit. That we need to spend an hour, that we spend 2 hours, right? Much like that wise person that we have mentioned earlier, they would tell a story, something very simple, but extremely meaningful, that perhaps we still have inside of us. Right? So, again, let us bring the reason why we are presenting these stories. We need information little by little. Nothing comes and it's going to change us overnight. Even if Jesus were to materialize right here with us right now, guess what? We would not accept it because we have to live. It takes time. It takes perseverance, right? It takes a lot of work for us to understand what it is. And we're still talking about the parables because to some was given to parables and to some was given a little bit more. And the beauty of this is that, and sometimes this is very little understood, for those who already have, much more will be given. So then we can ask, so if I don't have too much, not much will be given to me, but I can accept more. I can understand more, right? So I can be given even more understanding of what life is. So as we learn through Spiritism to finalize towards the end of the year, we're coming again to close the year, and we come closer to this beautiful date, which is the December 25th, when we come closer to Christ, when we come closer to the idea of the birth of Christ, right? Is it just by chance? No. Let us make meaningful for each one of us. That when we read the message, that when we discuss the message throughout the year, we make the day of Christmas in our hearts. That we make a moment that perhaps is difficult, a moment like Christ did with many others in their lives. I do have a couple more minutes, and I don't remember the message, but I came across the name of the message, but I came across this week as we were preparing this. It's in the book Ontology of Christmas Messages, if we can put it that way. It's a number of message of Christmas messages by Chico Xavier, by many authors. There are several messages. It's a beautiful thing. It's in PDF. If you wanted me to send it over to you, if not, try to buy it as well. But there is one passage that it is written to what happened to Peter, right? When he is actually killed, and he asks to not to be crucified as Jesus did, but actually upside down. And so it happened. And after he discarnate, he's found on the other side, asking Jesus, as I mentioned earlier today, to stay and to help humanity until we are a better group of people, right? And as he's on the other side helping and doing all the things, there's more to the message that I'm not going to bring here because it's pretty long as well. But as he's on the other side, helping others and everything, Jesus turned to him and say, pay attention, there's someone actually looking for you. And so he does. And it was actually the centurion that killed him. And the same man was desperate because his son was ill. And Peter goes without saying a thing, and goes and helps the man, helps his son who was sick. And the son of the centurion actually becomes better, right? He's healed. And at that moment, we can see that when we talk about benevolence towards everyone, it's an example of the benevolence, right? It's an example of understanding that, look, what has happened yesterday, it doesn't matter anymore, right? Not that we're going to forget what things we're not. We have, thank God, a good memory, right? And these things there are a lot of difficulties that we go through that is hard to let go, but it is through these examples that we learn that there is a tomorrow if we accept. Because at that moment, when Jesus is saying to him, look, there's somebody looking for you, it was a test. Imagine if you were re-encountering or you're being asked to help someone who did something wrong towards you or one of your family members. I don't think I would be in the same position. And I'm saying this to the public here, right? And some of us may say, oh, yes, but no, it's hard. It's not easy. But we're being called through these examples to switch, to really find what Christmas is, to really find what the message is, to really find the true meaning of what a parable is. Reality or just a story. It is up to us. We know now what Jesus is, right? And we know his point. But how we define that, it's on us. On that note, I would like to open up for any questions, any comment that we may have here or online, Daniel.
Thank you, Leo. That was very great. Any question here? If not, there is one question online by Paula. I'll read for you, Leo, okay?
Okay, thank you.
So this is from Paula Schmidt. She says, thank you, Leo. With all due respect to the Jewish faith, is there any message about the Jewish people coming to accept Jesus as the Son of God and does partake in the New Testament? Pretty much he's asking if there is any message about the Jewish people coming to accept Jesus as the Son of God. So I believe she's asking about if we have any spiritist message, like any, revelation that one day this is going to happen. So it's on you, man.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Daniel. Way to throw the ball. I don't know of any message that we have. The only thing that I can think is that in some of André Luiz's book, as well as Manuel Filomeno de Miranda's book, many of these spirits of the Jewish faith, they come together with Christians as well to work, to help humanity, right? There are, considerations even when of spirits, when they discarnate, they connect, obviously, because of their connection with the faith as well with other individuals, to go to certain areas that, again, they believe the same. Just like we connect because we're here mainly because of Spiritism, right? We have ways to think and to coordinate our lives, but we're here because of the purpose of Spiritism and to read a message of Spiritism. So that is one thing. But as far as a direct answer to it, and I'm including myself on this, and this is Leo's answer, I think they will accept Christ as the one when we Christians accept Christ as the one. When we say accept, is to exemplify his teachings in our lives, right? And this was something, and the reason I bring this, because we are reminded by some great scholars of spirituality out there that they are not Christians, or they don't believe in or even in God, because we make a mess of the teachings, right? We have made a mess. We continue to do when we actually don't look at our brothers and sisters as sons and daughters of God, just like we are. So I think when we start flipping, or start changing a little bit and exemplify this in our lives, I think other people will look like, you know what? This is a great Savior. Because he came to this individual and he's showing to me, or she's showing to me, that this is the way, the truth, and the life. So that, again, is a personal note on it. Didn't read this anywhere, but I think it's something that we truly have to connect with. Once more, folks, and I'm not saying anything, let us look at to the true meaning of what this end of the year gathering is, called Christmas, right? It's beautiful, but what is the true meaning? And when I say beautiful, in all of its aspects that we put, right, as a Christian society, but what is it? What is it? So once we do that, I think we'll have, not that they will change their way of thinking, because it's important to us to remind ourselves that we're not here to change anybody, but the acceptance and say, yes, this is the Savior that we were promised. And it's a great question because it makes us reflect. Thank you, Daniel.
Well said. We have a couple of comments here I'm going to read. Leo, one from Irasema. She's saying, thank you so much, Leo, for the great talk. God bless all of us. And Alba also says, thank you, Leo. Beautiful talk. It's give a lot of hope, the fact that knowing that Jesus evolved, reaching perfection, and continues doing it, that humanity destiny has long way to go. So as a humanity destiny, a long way to go. So pretty much she's putting, like summarize what you mentioned about Jesus being this, perfect spirit that was not created perfect, but became perfect through many reincarnation, probably not in our solar system, but, elsewhere in the universe and came and brought this message to us. Thank you, Alba, for that. Also, we have a comment from José Eduardo Coin. He said, great lessons. Thank you for sharing with us and remind us about Jesus' teachings. Yes.
Very well. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone here? Paul already made that her
Yeah,
her
I just wanted to make a comment.
She's not here.
Your answer regards to the Paula's questions is very, I would say, aligned what Spiritism teaching us. And one of the things that we learn in Spirit is that this Spiritism is a invitational message from the enlightened Spirit for everyone that wants to become better, right? To want to understand the laws, the divine laws, but is not here to convert people. That's why, for example, an example of this place here, we have been here for more than 2 decades, and the number of people that comes here has changed a lot, but never has like big number of people, because the idea is that we are not here to lecture people, but to share this message, and it's up to each one of us to apply in our life. So if you are Jewish people or Jewish person or have other religion, that will be the best that you can in that religion. I think that's what Spiritism invite you to do it, but not to convert you to be Spiritist or to be Christian, because Jesus itself, his message was, be a good person, right? And we have all those qualities that we learn in the Gospel according to Spiritism, what it is to be a good person, what it is to be a Christian. It's a very long checking list. That's why Alba mentioned here that in order for us one day to be in the level of Jesus, we have a long way to go, right? But it is take a step after a step, right? So we cannot jump, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And it is true. And the tenets of Spiritism are there. Believe in God. We're reincarnating, right? We're going through these transitions from one planet to the other in many, many galaxies. We have a lot to learn. But we have spirits that they come back to us and they tell us what they've been through, how they got to become a let's say a teacher. Let's call it a teacher, right? Joanna de Angelis, Emmanuel, and many other spirits that also helped us compiling the Spiritist doctrine, right? Their work, right? And the beautiful thing is that many of these spirits, they are to reincarnate on planet Earth. They is scheduled to reincarnate on planet Earth. So they're coming back. But what are we doing with the message that they already brought to us? Because they're going to come back and reemphasize what we're reading now, what we have learned. So what are we doing? Whether they come back or not, great, right? Some of them will just be anonymous for some of us, but they are reincarnating. And there's talk of Emmanuel, there's talk of Joanna de Angelis, Saint Francis of Assisi, reincarnating, all of these beautiful minds reincarnated because God is great, because God wants us to learn and to evolve one more degree or go to the next phase, right, of our lives. So it's coming, but we need to be apt to receive, because more will be given to those who already have. So we have to open up. The calling is now. The moment is now. We hear this over and over and over, right? We closed certain chapters of our life, not thinking that there will be another one, right? And we also go into the next chapters of our lives thinking that I just closed a great chapter. That was hard, right? That was really difficult, but I made it, right? It's like that when we have kids and realize, oh, my kid is already 18. What happened, right? And we forget the struggles that we went through, right? When we learn something at work and say, this was hard, but look what I already have learned. And that gives us that boost to say, let me keep going. I learned about this parable today. Now I need to learn a little bit more. I learned about this disciple today. Now I need to learn a little bit more, as we get to apply them over and over and over in our lives, right? And then one day, we will be that individual that will give that instruction to someone, right? By telling them, let me tell you a little story. And hopefully that will be the story that will save someone's life when they are in despair, in difficulty as well. To finalize, I'll pass to Kirsten.
Oh, don't let me be the one to fight. I just wanted to share a comment. I recently learned, listening to a biography about Benjamin Franklin, he really loved the parables of Jesus. He loved them so much, and he was very dedicated to his self-improvement, that he actually created his own parable. And for many years, he was able to convince his friends that this was a parable they weren't familiar with in the Bible. And forgive me, I forget the name he gave it. But it was another moral parable that he had put together. So anyway, it made me think of it because of the significance of who Benjamin Franklin is, and just the applicability in our lives and following Jesus, and how important that is. So great talk, Leo. Great reminders going into this new year.
Thank you so much. And it's a great reminder for all of us as well, because as we have been given the instruction by a very good source, right, that Benjamin Franklin is the mentor of the Spirit Side of Baltimore, that has it is the mentor of not only of this nation as well, one of the mentors of this nation as well, but also the mentor of many, many nations, right, who was someone who actually came with others to bring a certain level of awareness, if we can say it that way, of who we are and how we present ourselves to the world as well, as an individual, as a group of people, as well as a nation. So a great reminder, Kirsten, because God, again, sends these beautiful minds, right, to remind us of our potential, not to criticize us, but to remind us that we are capable of, right? So with that, I would like to close and say thank you. Thank you for bearing with us as we brought all of these different moments, different teachings. Hopefully in the future, as we do this again, many, many years from now, we will do it. And I'm quite sure we'll have different perspectives to present as well. And some of the things that perhaps we may have said this or that way that was not perfect, we'll try to make it perfect next time. So because we're perfecting ourselves as well. So thank you. We'll go ahead and pass to the second part of this moment then. Thanks.